Hey, hello and welcome to the show. We are here for JP's product pick of the week. I'm JP, and I am so glad that you could join me today. Thanks everyone for popping on by. We have chats, so if you're wondering where all the chatting is going on, who am I talking to? We have the Discord chat over here at adafruit.it/Discord. Look for the live broadcast chat channel. It's that one right there. Thank you, C. Grover, for stopping by Blitz City DIY. Hello, hey, Thin Man. Yes, doing well on this warm day. Hope you are too. And we also have our YouTube chat over there. Dave Odessa, Robert Cochran, Philip Erschler. Thank you for popping on in. And thank you anyone who's watching over on Facebook or LinkedIn or any of the other places that we broadcast, but we're not watching those chats. So look for that Discord that I showed you over there. So you'll have to excuse me because I'm just getting over the cold I had like a week ago. It's a slow one. But what I want to do is let you know, if you want to go check out the product pick and get ready for purchasing at a deep discount, look for this URL. 3201 is the product ID. You can use that QR code as well. And what we do is thank you to the product team for stashing 100 of these before the show, putting them back in stock, and then slashing the price in half this week. This one is a 50% off, as most of these are when it's an Adafruit product. We can afford those margins just barely, but we can afford to give you a deep discount on those, maximum of 10, no resellers allowed. No coupon code required. It's just placed at that price during the show. So if you want it, get it before the show is over, because then the price goes back up to the usual reasonable but not wacky low price that we have during the show. And what I like to do on the show is, before I talk about it, let's jump back a little bit in time to the new segment from Ask an Engineer. Lady Ada, take it away.
Ethernet Feather.
Ethernet FeatherWing. This was it's not out yet from a while ago.
Ether Feather.
We finally, it's this week. This is its week. It is an Ethernet FeatherWing. It has a WizNet 5500 chip. You know, it's funny, like we haven't had any Ethernet stuff we've made in-house for quite a while, but because we have the selective solder machine, it comes with the jack plugged in, because otherwise it's, how are you going to test that it works? So it comes with the Ethernet jack. You plug in Ethernet. It works with all feathers. So yeah, you can plug it on an ESP 8266 or a Wicked, or you can plug it onto the LoRa feathers and make a LoRa Ethernet gateway, what have you. It uses the 3 SPI pins plus 1 configurable chip select pin, and you want to show this on the overhead. Maybe I can show it off. So this is you just put headers on it and whatever headers you want. So this is the feather, and then you can configure the chip select line. But and it uses quite a bit of power. But all of the feathers that we sell have a good enough power supply. It's a little bit longer because, of course, the Ethernet jack is quite big and it sticks out, and we, to make it fit. But it works really well, and what's great is the Ethernet 2 library, because it's super cross-platform compatible. Like this is a 32U4, and let's try this. Oh, hold on, it's in booting mode. But it's got nice link and activity LEDs, so that's kind of nice. You can tell when you've got link. Just waiting for the bootloader. Yeah, I just want to wait for the bootloader to time out. Okay, so it's connected to the Ethernet. And 2 seconds later, it will say, oh, come on. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
What's up?
It was totally working. Actually, I unplugged it to make it work. I'm going to try resetting it again.
Reset it.
I'll reseat this Ethernet as well. But so it uses the WizNet Wiz 5500. So it has a built-in TCP/IP stack, which is kind of handy. So you don't have to do a lot of the TCP/IP stuff like in the chip itself. It uses the client interface. So you can, like, almost any example code that already exists for Ethernet will work with this. Of course, like now it was connected and now it's not.
All right.
I don't know what's going on. Sorry, but I don't know, maybe I unplugged the Ethernet cable. But at my desk, it was working great. And
I don't know what that.
no, I keep bouncing, I keep bumping it. It basically does DHCP, it gets an IP address, and then you can use it with MQTT or REST or website.
I'll double check. Maybe your cable's not plugged in.
It might not be plugged in. Or it might not, the router might not be plugged in.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ethernet.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, that is it. That right there is the product pick of the week. This week, it is the Ethernet FeatherWing. So this is a FeatherWing. You can use it with all your feathers and add a wired Ethernet connection so that you can do all kinds of great network stuff without the hassle of Wi-Fi. If you're doing IoT things and you have sort of a permanent connection to a sensor that you want to be sending data up to Adafruit I/O or some other MQTT service, this is great for that. It's also pretty cool if you want to do some very minimal little servers. If you have to serve up some info on a network, all you got to do is grab a handy Cat5 cable, Ethernet cable, plug that in. We have the RJ45 connector there. We have network and activity LEDs built in. And then you can plonk this on top of a feather with some header pins. You can put some tall sockets on it. I'll show you how you can do that if you want to put a feather on top of it. Or even better, I recommend this sort of arrangement here with a doubler or quadrupler so that you can, or a tripler, so that you can put a whole bunch of feather and feather wings all together in one spot. Let me see, what am I forgetting about stats and statistics and things? Let's go to the site. So here it is. Right now we have it for this discounted price of $9.99, which is a pretty nice price. This uses the WizNet 5500, which is a sort of all-in-one Ethernet chip that has the TCP/IP stack built in. We access it over SPI with one chip select pin, and we have Ethernet 2 library for Arduino is a good choice, and then we have our own Adafruit WizNet 5K library for CircuitPython, so it works really nicely with CircuitPython. Plug it in, it'll do DHCP setup for you, it'll grab an address, and it is off and running and onto your LAN and your WAN, just plugged into any hub or switch as you usually would a Ethernet cable bearing device. Let's see, did I forget any info on here? No, okay, that's all good, yeah. So let's take a look at a bit of a demo. I've got let's go to this view of it for a second here. I'll tell you what we're looking at. Hey, can I clean that camera? Looks like a little, hold on. That didn't help? Yeah, it did help. Helped a little bit with that sort of sun flare we were getting off the LED. So here's what I've got. Right now I have a Feather RP2040. I'm on a quadrupler. I have a little OLED feather wing so that we can take a look at some info. And there, right there, is the Ethernet feather wing. So what's going on right now is the code running in CircuitPython does not detect a network, so I'll go ahead and plug in the cable, and when I do, you'll see a couple things happen. You'll see connection and activity lights, and you'll see it has gone to a URL that I specified in code, which is todbot.com/tst/randomcolor.php, and it generates a random hex value every time you query it. And then right now I'm getting back this info color and then a hex value, which I'm then setting the LED that's built onto, the little NeoPixel that's built onto my feather to that color. I'll just put a little acrylic shield over it so you can see the color a little better. So there it went and grabbed an amber color. So this is just one example of going out and querying the internet. I'll show you how that works inside of code right here. Let me bring up my code window. So here, the key things, I'm grabbing Adafruit Connection Manager, the Adafruit WizNet 5K, and from that I'm importing WizNet 5K. And then I'm also using Adafruit requests and JSON so that I can parse that data that I'm grabbing from the web page. And actually, at this point, it's a good idea to take a look at what that web page looks like. So let me grab it from code here. So this http://todbot.com test randcolor PHP. That's the one we're looking at. Let me bring up my browser window here and paste that in. So you can see that just returns this little JSON with status and hi there, and color, and a value. If I refresh this, every time I grab from there, I get a different value. So that's what the page is that it's querying. Go back to code here. So I'm setting up the NeoPixel, the display over I2C, and the URL labels. Since it's on 2 lines there, I put 2 lines on the OLED as well as the color label. It's all the text we're showing. And here's the setup for the Ethernet FeatherWing. I'm setting the chip select to digital 10, pin D10, and then the SPI bus on SCK, MOSI, and MISO. So those are the pins on the Ethernet FeatherWing that are plugged right into the Feather, and that's going to work with all of our Feathers as far as I know. Then we're initializing the Ethernet interface. I shouldn't call this radio. That's just some sort of leftover convention from some other sample code. But WizNet on the SPI bus with the chip select pin of D10. And then we do some of the network setup here with pool using the socket pool from the connection manager with this interface right here. SSL context from there and requests from the same, all from the same interface. And then we have a little function here called fetch and set color. So we use requests.get and then that URL, that web page I showed you that ToddBot has, a little testing site. And from that we grab the data and parse it using the JSON.loads and then the response text. And from that I'm just grabbing that second bit of info from the JSON file, which is the color. So from that, I'm just cleaning up that hex value, getting rid of the pound sign, and turning it into a hex value that we can use to set the NeoPixel color. And then you can see down here in my REPL, I've got it printing out what it grabs from the page, and then the sort of parsed, neat version of it right there. So right now we have this kind of blue color, and now we've gone to a purpley color. Those are these hex values that we see there. So that's what one example looks like. If we want to take a look at some of the other, whoops, let me bring back the web page. Did I close that page? No, there you are. If we take a look at the Learn Guide for this, you can see we've got a nice pinouts page. All of the pins that you could use on the Feather are broken out here, so you can place other header pins or just solder wires directly to it. If you want to connect to the top side of this, we've got them all those pins broken out. And those are described here on the pinouts page, as well as some other extra breakouts on the end there. Since we had the space, there's a little reset there, and you can grab an IRQ pin as well for the WizNet chip. Assembly, you can do this type of setup that I showed you, where we have header pins coming out of the bottom. You can also do something like this. So if I take a Feather and put extra long header in it, you can place that into the Ethernet FeatherWing. These are little fiddly pins. You wouldn't press it all the way down, but you'd be able to stack a Feather on top. You just don't want to short against the RJ45 jack there. But you could set a Feather on top of it and have kind of a neat little package there where you can just gank that into a router with a really short little cable and give it power. You can use a power over Ethernet splitter, but you're not going to get power over Ethernet on this jack to run the whole thing. So we do have a PoE splitter that will take power over Ethernet, and it breaks it out into both the RJ45 plug and a USB-C, so that we can use the power over Ethernet to get just down to basically one cable. I'll show you that on our web page in a second. Let's see what else. So yeah, so here's the assembly page. Just show you how to put together some fairly standard setup. Here's an example where it's on top of some stacky headers with the Feather underneath, but I find it might be nice to have the Feather on top so you have access to JST for battery and reset and anything else that's on the top side. Maybe STEMMA QT connection, etc. And then in usage, we have some examples here for using it with Arduino, using the Ethernet library, and then usage in CircuitPython. There's some examples here of doing queries and requests with the requests library, mini MQTT. And if you take a look at the product page down at the bottom, there's a link for Learn Guides here that includes this Ethernet for CircuitPython with WizNet 5K by Brent. There's also a networking in CircuitPython page by Ann Barella. Where is it? Right here, networking in CircuitPython. So go check those out. Those are all nice examples of things that you can do once you have yourself on a nice hardwired connection. Let's see. let me go back to this for a second here. And again, I'll show you, I did have a feature in there where I checked to see if we have a connection. And if we don't, we have a network error here. You could make that more descriptive, I suppose, but I'm just saying, hey, there's nothing plugged in here that's going to the internet. I'll also, thanks, Todd just posted this up in our Discord, which is a link to one of our splitters. So if you take a look right here, this is a PoE splitter with USB Type-C, 5 volt, 2 amp, 100 megabit Ethernet. So we have a few different variations on these. Some have DC jack, some have micro B. But this means if you have an existing power over Ethernet going on, you can grab that power and that data off the Ethernet cable, and then down at the business end where your Feather is and your Ethernet FeatherWing, you can just have this plugged in here. So a little PoE splitter. Thanks for posting that, Todd. Let's see, other questions. I'm going to take a look over in the YouTube chat. Put that back there. Move this over to the side. Let's see. Yeah, so someone said pondering how to squeeze a PoE and a battery onto that. Could get tricky. Maybe take apart that PoE splitter there and see if you can get the size down a little bit. Yeah, doubler, tripler, Captain Codon suggested. Very good idea. Robert Cochran, I don't know the answer to this. Does it have to be a Category 5 cable? Would it work with a Category 8? I suspect it would with Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 8. But someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm guessing the minimum is going to be a Cat 5, but I don't know that there's any problem using some of those higher rated cables. Let's see. What's a good way to give that Ethernet cable strain relief and prevent it from dragging the project onto the floor? Robert Cochran asks. That's a good question. So you can see in this instance, I've got, since I'm using something like this tripler, we've got some size, we've got some M2.5 holes here, so you can connect this to an enclosure. The FeatherWing itself does have those, a little hard to get to those holes up at the jack side of it, but you can screw down into the Feather or into something else here. That's one way. Another way would be to use something like, let me go to this view again. Something like what do we call this? Do we call it a Cat 5 breakout? Nope. Let's see. Let's see if it's a Ethernet breakout. So I know we have like a project mounted, what do we call it? RJ45, I bet. RJ45 breakout. Let's go to this one and see if I can back trace it. No, that's going to go to terminal blocks. Okay. I think we do have a threaded Ethernet jack that you could plug into the outside of a project and then run there's a short little cable that runs to the Feather. That could be another way. Let's see. Weighted base, bolting the project down, work surface. Those are all good suggestions. You may also be able to get away with a, let me show this view again. You may be able to, get my camera to hold this. This is a little loose. You may be able to, if this is wrapped underneath part of your project to keep all your cables coming out one way, you've got a little bit of strain relief essentially there. Put some zip ties on it so that if there's strain, it's not pulling right at the jack. Also, there's some very flat cables, some thinner cables that you might be able to use. But those are a few suggestions there. If other people have suggestions in the chats, let me know. Bulkhead mount, Beatagraph Hagen, thank. That's the word I was looking for. All right, let's see. I think that's going to cover it. Let me go to this view where we have some pretty pictures here, and we will wrap this up. Let's see if I have enough cable to do all the things I'm dreaming of doing here. In fact, let's plug a battery. Let's see if this battery's got some charge to it so I can get rid of one of the cables here. All right, I'll leave that off. Actually, that's a little confusing because we're wired here. This is not a wireless battery kind of project. All right, so how many hands do I need? That right there is the product pick of the week this week. It is the Ethernet FeatherWing. For Adafruit Industries, I'm John Park. This has been JP's product pick of the week. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.